Buckle your cosmic seatbelts. An incredible shift is about to happen. Everyone in the world is about to flip their switch and change positions on something in their life they've been holding down for the lifetime. I'll give you all your deets and everything you know about the other 11 people on the planet. Keep streaming for Namaste Today, your soul horoscopes, and the Zodiac weather. Howdy, and welcome to Namaste Today with the soul horoscopes and also your Zodiac weather. My name is Sensei Christopher Witecki. I am the guardian channel of the step astrology system and the founder of siriusjoy.academy. I'm also your Age of Aquarian host and by default, humanity's best friend. If you're new here, by the way, please do us a favor and tell us what you think of the show. Tell your friends about us. And if you're here every week, well, we'd like to remind you, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you're watching on another platform, please be so kind as to write a comment. Tell us what you like about the show and what you don't. We will aggregate that. It will get better, and the algorithms will get to know us very well. Well, it's been an interesting time, my friend. We are in such a warm moment, let's say. In fact, such a warm, hot moment of things going on. I think we should get straight to our sun signs in the headlines. The Zodiac confirms it. U.S. government heading for a shutdown. It appears the United States government may be at risk one more time for serious shutdown. But according to the planets, this is not unusual. In fact, it's business as usual. In fact, astrologers can find similarities when they examine the last 3 times the United States government shut down and what the astrological buzz was at the time and the pressure was. The last 3 full shutdowns were 1995, 2013, and the brutal 35-day experience in 2018-2019. They all come up with the same cosmic tension, which is Pluto. For instance, in 1995, Pluto sat right in the beginning of Capricorn, the astrological sign for government and business, and the same sign as the United States opposite of the sun. It is literally the opposite. It seems like the return of Pluto in Capricorn for the first time in 249 years also meant the return of the United States' biggest karma with boundaries, which is around wealth and money. That's where the United States is somewhat of a thief, right? Talking Indians and land, for instance. Well, in 1995, Uranus also squared it pretty hard. So basically, Congress was dared to do things and go too far. And of course, they did. Now, fast forward to 2013. Uranus was still in Aries, and it was opposing everything stable in the United States chart, which is in Libra. And Pluto kept squeezing it. Just think control meets rebels. Well, basically, things didn't turn out too well in that time either, and we had the freeze. Then in 2018, Pluto hit Capricorn's tail end. So now the end of the Capricorn transit with Pluto and Capricorn. Saturn was now in Capricorn. So you're getting double dose of the abuse, locking budgets like concrete, and throwing into use deep party divides. In fact, at that time, Neptune was in Pisces and it was fogging up the road. Things were a mess. Nobody really knew what the truth was. No one knew who was hiding, who was lighting, who was bluffing, and of course, who was delusional, maybe all of them. But another cosmic coincidence of these times is Jupiter, which has to do with abundance, either too much or too little. And it really threw out of balance the budgets in 2 of these last government shutdowns. Jupiter conjoined Uranus in 1995 for a wild overreach, right? And Jupiter trine Pluto in 2018, most likely inflating the debt fight and the drama. It's pretty clear that Pluto is the repeat offender here, turning shutdowns into power plays whenever it grinds against Capricorn or Uranus. Jupiter is confusing, but it probably is the reason why we survive, frankly. It just sprinkles just a little bit of chaos on top to burn the right things down, like cosmic gasoline. The United States was actually born, if you don't know, on July 4, 1776, with the first signature happening in Philadelphia around 5 p.m. That gives the United States astrology chart the rising sign of 10 degrees Sagittarius, step 10. And that means the sun is in Cancer at step 13, which means the sun of the United States falls into the 8th house. 8th house is all about boundaries and other people's money. It makes a lot of sense, though. The Sag rising means that the U.S. has got a big picture, truth-seeking vibration, like we're cool to everyone. But the Cancer sun sign in the 8th house screams emotional intensity around shared resources, debt, and power. It's like we have this hiding shadow about taxes and government and funding, right? Makes sense. Capricorn in the 2nd house for us is the money pot. So this is where budgets live. So it's not surprising that when Pluto was going through the 2nd house of the United States, we were literally having fights over cash flow, and it hit really hard. But let's break it down with these 3 shutdowns in 95, 2013, and 2018 against this overall chart of the United States. In fact, just so you know, Pluto was in Capricorn, the 2nd house. So we were like doing a slow motion power grab, which is what Pluto does, squeezing the government for the truth, finances, while Uranus in Aquarius at the time was squaring our Sagittarius ascendant. So Uranus was making us sort of open up and show the world the real truth, shaking up the whole we're all free identity and showing that we really are still kind of a slave nation that is working for the poor is working for the rich. That's a classic US chart vibe, by the way. Cancer sun wants to be all security, but Pluto's like, no, you got to pay up. Then Pluto is still in Capricorn in this last one in the second house, but now it's starting to oppose the Cancer sun in the eighth house. So we basically were giving ourselves emotional blackmail over debt ceilings, while Uranus and Aries was opposing the US chart, Libra planet. So nobody was being fair. No one was trusting anyone. Basically, had total breakdown of the balanced system. In 2018, Pluto still haunted Capricorn in the second house with Saturn joining in, freezing all the budgets like a bad breakup. Meanwhile, Neptune and Pisces squared our ascendant. So that was muddying up the national narrative and even making things seem a little bit too far-fetched. But Jupiter and Scorpio is probably the cleaner in the eighth house during the Cancer sun, hyping up all of our fears and helping us to be more doomed with our panic. What's the point? Well, Pluto's been the constant villain, right? Hammering the second house and all of its personal issues. We have our Pluto return that we happen. And Sagittarius rising also has been unclear as our story keeps changing. Cancer sun, the eighth house makes us paranoid, yada, yada, yada. So it really asks us, well, what will happen now that we actually have this final breakdown? Like, this is not going to be the same, because we have Pluto now in Aquarius. What does it mean? Well, I will do a little prediction here, but let's take a look at the United States chart and find out for ourselves real quick. As I mentioned there, we do have a 10-degree Sagittarius rising. So we sort of have that melting pot of the world. It's a small world after all is a Disney song, and Disney was a Sagittarius. Then, of course, we have our sun at 13 degrees. 13 is the rebel. It's right in the beginning of the eighth house, which means we are temperamental. We don't trust anybody. And 13, and that's to a 4. You've got Aquarius anger at any moment. And speaking of Aquarius anger, boy, can we drill that up. Our moon is at 27 degrees Aquarius. That means that we have a long emotional maturity. But because of Pluto just now entering into Aquarius, we're actually only now beginning to really bring our feelings into our intellectual pursuits. So where is all the crap going for the money and the budgets? Well, Pluto, which is now here on the edge of the Capricorn Aquarius season, all of our money troubles that we talk about pretty much happen from the Pluto transit, going from here, which is questioning our character, all the way through our budget and the Pluto return. By the way, our Pluto return happened right during COVID. So that was one of the big things too, shutting down our economy and hurting us. Pluto in the second house means that our country has no boundaries when it comes to how to manage wealth. In fact, the South Node at 6 degrees says we really need to get out of the idea of money and focus more on the idea of transforming ourselves and seeing what we can become together. So will we have money problems going forward? Well, here's the thing. Saturn right now and Neptune are in the beginning stages of Aries. And the last time that they were in this place, during the fact that Pluto was in Capricorn, this means that we are basically rebirthing our emotional security. Maybe the problem is that our emotional security is based on our ego, Aries, when really it's supposed to be based on our spirituality, Pisces, and taking our spiritual values, and making them whole. So what I'm trying to say is we're a Cancer. We're all about emotion. And yet we have an Aries rising right now, an Aries emotional foundation that's not being compassionate to our sensitive side. Basically, we're always creating fights with ourselves and we're never calming down. As long as that happens and we're always creating fights, I don't see how we can keep a constant of abundance anymore. Things are going to be a problem. So is there anything we can look forward to as far as coming out of this? Absolutely. The United States is actually heading for Chiron in the fifth house. That means that we're going to return to the American dream when Chiron hits the fifth house of Taurus. It means at the same time, Pluto will be closer to our South Node. So we'll be able to actually transform our values around abundance and put it more into transforming ourselves with money instead of focusing on money as the only thing. And of course, as Pluto moves through this Aquarius age, we begin to feel our patriotism come back as well. One last thing that people don't talk about, I'll tell you right here. There's 0 degrees solar eclipse in Pisces. Now, Pluto has only been around the clock one time, which means the first time it awakened the 0 degree Pisces. But now that Pluto's be heading for the 0 degree Pisces, it means that the future of the United States is actually to be a spiritual leader. And that's something that might just help us with the budget. All right, friends, let's take a look now at your zodiac weather and learn about everything going on with your brothers and sisters. And I must say, we've only had a brief moment to talk about all these details of planets and transits. If you want to go deep and understand the planets and transits, you need to come to siriusjoy.academy. We give you a daily pep talk that is in-depth, 20 minutes talking about these things. You walk out perfectly prepared for your day. To sign up now for just $3.99, go to siriusjoy.com. And while some of you are signing up for that, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. And this week, introducing Sarah Matsky.
Hi, Sensei. This Zodiac weather report covers from Saturday, October 4th to Friday, October 10th, 2025, and is proudly sponsored by Sirius Joy's 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. This is your invitation to pause, go inward, and finally align with the truth written in the stars. With the wisdom of astrology, you will uncover clarity, direction, and the strength to step fully into who you were born to be. Enroll today at siriusjoy.academy. Looking ahead at your weekend forecast, now that you have walked down the aisle into a new marriage with yourself on Thursday and Friday, you become the new you on Saturday and expand into new territory on Sunday. Let's stroll down. On Saturday, it's sunny and dreamy. Step 11 rules the day, so the comet Chiron overrules the planets. You may feel like overruling yourself or others, so use the power of the hypercritic to reorganize your sock drawer instead of pointing out faults. The moon is in Pisces, so self-empathy is high, even if compassion is not. Venus in Virgo plays tug-of-war with the North Node at step 18 Pisces, igniting some internal pressure today, comparing where you are versus where you could be in life. Focus on the root intention of I receive wholeness. And your daily affirmation for that day is I am evolving into a full relationship with myself. On Sunday, it's sunny and hopeful. Step 12 is a ruling step number, which nets to 3, I believe. So your childlike curiosity is coming out to explore a life that may be more fun. Yet with the moon in Pisces, you can't help but also feel the times when life was not so fun. The root intention is I receive encouragement. The affirmation is I am feeling and believing in this new journey. Just be sure to check your heart and feelings for the truth and not outside forces. Taking a sneak peek at the upcoming week, the weekdays promise to deliver surprise and maybe some drama as you determine which relationships stay and which are to go. The week begins with breakdowns on Monday, negotiations on Wednesday, and commits to relationship changes or breakups by Friday. Let's dive deep. On Monday, Mercury moves into cutting Scorpio on top of a full moon in Aries late in the day, so temper those tantrums and hone the energy to expand on belonging to your heart, despite a possible breakdown or two. Today's weather is partly cloudy and windy, so to hold on during the gusts, focus on the root intention of I receive surprise belonging, due to any breakdown revealing any unwavering belief deep within. A moon in Aries rising to fullness punctuates personal desires, although keep in mind it may not care about anybody else's. Today's affirmation is I am committed to the feelings of a harmonic future, reminding to check that anger and use that passion as rocket fuel. Tuesday is cloudy and surreal, coming off of yesterday's fireworks show in order to generate a unique perspective. Step 14 means Mercury rules the day, now in Scorpio, and faces off in a square to Pluto at 1 degree in Aquarius. This means negotiations are taking place in order to take self-love even higher by cutting away what no longer serves. A moon in the high degrees of Aries crossing over Chiron reminds us of the courage to heal, so use today to know what is worth belonging to for the heart. Today's root intention is I receive a unique perspective, and the affirmation is I am mindful of my heart's opinions, which no doubt will be crystal clear by day's end. Wednesday brings in a Grandmaster Step 15 Libra day, and with a moon in Taurus, it means the heart is open for business. However, under the influence from Venus in late Virgo, business may be way more meticulous than usual. Open to go with the flow and note where the imbalances are. The weather for today is cloudy and intense, and the root intention is I receive acceptance. Affirm that I am balancing my mind with my heart today, as early in the morning, Venus sextiles Jupiter at 23 Cancer. So this could be a walking into an understanding of the greater mission. Thursday is step 16, which nets to a 7, indicating Spirit is giving a readout on what may have gone down this week. Take it to God by staying open to the heart, and a moon in Taurus adds to any sense data that may be picked up. Today's weather is cloudy and gray, so take it easy on yourself by sticking with today's root intention, which is I receive grace. The affirmation is I am open to creative solutions, which today you will most certainly be. Get an extra cozy blanket to listen and comfort. Friday is sunny and swift, as a 17 net 8 day indicates decisions and incisions. Take all day to affirm where your heart is wanting to go by sensing if it's for you or not. A moon in Gemini makes for busy, but great for learning and collecting information. So feel out if that relationship is everything it could be. But after this week, there is no doubt the call that needs to be made. The root intention for today is I receive clarity, as the act of committing will clear up any fog on anything that has been tolerated. The affirmation for today is I am deciding to act on my heart and intuition. So take that with you into decision making. And I don't know about you, but my intuition is sensing that my heart needs something to eat. Back to you, Sensei.
And now on to our favorite part, the soul horoscopes. And you know, from the beginning, I've always aimed for them to be soul horoscopes. One thing that's so fascinating to me is that astrology reveals what's happening pre-manifest and what will happen manifest. And this month with the sun in Libra, what we are manifesting is the people pulling apart to one day come back together. And I don't mean one day as in this month. It'll be all sorts of ways. We'll talk about it. But in each 12 signs, we have a story going on where we are going to step into our heart, hopefully. And if we step into our heart and let our heart lead, then we move on to an easier path. But we could also let our mind lead, and that could be a problem for some time. So I have a new treat for you. We're going to show the chart real quick. And I want to lay out a 3-act soul structure for what we're going to talk about in each of your horoscopes and point out exactly where it's going to happen in the chart. The first like I said, is on Saturday. Venus in the South Node. Here's Venus right here. So Venus ultimately is going to, having crossed the South Node and being close to the South Node, Venus is actually going to oppose the North Node at step 18. This happens on Saturday. This opposition is going to have you opening up to let things go. And this is so you can move towards the story you were born to live. With Saturn retrograde at 27, it also means it's go time. 27 at 9, 27 at 9. That means everything is boarding the train and we've got to move on. I'll talk about in your horoscope exactly where that is. Then Monday, we have a full moon, which is what you're seeing actually here, this chart here. The full moon is at step 14 in Aries. 14 nets to a 5. Usually that's the word that triggers things. The person that says the wrong thing at the wrong time, or you hear exactly what you can never unhear again. That usually triggers a change of opinion. And because it's in Aries, it will result in a change of behavior. Back in here, it means that in our Libra-ness, we'll be talking about how to rise to a new occasion for ourselves so we can cover ourselves in this new territory. We'll get deeper in each of our horoscopes. And then finally, the third act is going to be Wednesday, when Virgo is actually going to move up to 23 here, Venus Virgo, and it's going to sextile Jupiter at 23 Cancer. Now, this means that we are opening up to a new life. We're getting used to the hot water. And with Jupiter at 23, it means we now believe it can happen and our feelings are agreeing. So these are the green lights to say go forward in your life. And again, your horoscope will tell you where.
This Scorpio season, embark on a journey of self-discovery. Create your soul manifesto. Unveil your purpose. Live your truth. Welcome to 40 Days of My Truth and Purpose. Enrolling now, only at Sirius Joy Academy.
Giving you sugars, and like that's what how that part is. It takes you to this like sublime place, and it just makes you feel like life makes perfect sense. It just makes you feel like
Hi, I'm Lisa Brazelton, the architect of the Chamber of Wealth Consciousness program and the founder of Sage Prosperity Partners. Are you ready to break free from old money stories and belief systems? This fall, there are 2 cohorts which I will be facilitating, and I would love for you to join me. In this program, I will help you open up the light of divine prosperity. There are limited spaces available, You can see the link below, and Serious Joy members will receive a discount. I look forward to seeing you.
So for each of your 12 horoscopes, we're going to look at these 3 different acts and how it affects you. First of all, Act 1, which is the opposition of Venus to the North Node. Act 2, a full moon in Aries at step 14. Act 3, Venus and Jupiter coming together in a sextile. And as always, let's begin with the zodiac leaders themselves, the Aries. Aries, you are actually the leader because you're the first one to do it and the one to have courage. And strangely enough, we've gone through this whole cycle with you where you were warriors, and then you kind of chilled out a bit in the age of Pisces, and now in the age of Aquarius, you're actually going to be cool in the sense that probably not likely to kill somebody. But that was like the number one thing. Aries were tough, they were strong, they were brutal, they made armies, they made that sort of power. So you were literally going through a transformation, a makeover, if you will. Maybe even something secret that's been held within you. In fact, this week with the 3 points, first of all, the Sun in Libra means that you are working on your relationship to yourself and perfecting your marriage. And what happens is you realize that now that you're getting along with people and you'll know how getting along with yourself, you'll know how to get along with people better. And so you want to upgrade those relationships. The thing is that you're going to realize that you have not been authentic really to the world about who you are because you haven't been really accepting who you are to yourself. So what this does is this does a couple of things. One, the ultimatum is it's time to have faith and be willing to get rid of the old life. So the opposition that happens on Saturday with Venus says it's time to get rid of the things in your life that just don't matter anymore. They just don't care about the clutter, so to speak, in your life. And don't be afraid to do that. The reason why you need to do that is simply because you're having a change of faith. And now you're realizing you have faith in things you never had faith in before. This realization over the weekend, you have faith in things you've never had faith in before, then brings up this radical idea that maybe in the full moon, you'll go ahead and take off your mask and show who you really are to the world. This is by following what your heart really belongs. It's not so much saying who you are, it's saying what your heart really wants. And so this will dramatically change your actual relationships to people and your ability to stay connected to people and how you and who you choose to be in long-term relationships with. So this is a radical shift of Aries and how they present themselves, represent a full moon, which could be that you go over the top, by the way, in that full moon. This empowers your ego. So you might find that you go too far, and that sets up the chain reaction. But whatever the case is, you sort of find your strut. And so for Act 3, which happens with Venus and Jupiter getting together, it means that you finally understand by the end of the week that you can be yourself in relationships, you can be yourself in person, and at the same time, you can allow yourself, your lifestyle to be true to that too. The conjunction to Cancer is saying, I can change my life and I can still feel good about myself and feel grounded and feel safe. And so you could say that perhaps what you were facing the whole time was a fear of change because Virgo is very stick for you. And I think because Aries are tough, they tend to buy into the reality. Well, good luck. Shut off that mask. I'm curious what it's going to be. Taurus. Oh, Taurus, this is going to be an interesting week indeed. In fact, sometimes I think about it for the first time when I report it, just so you know. So reactions are actual. First of all, the opposition of Act 1, when the South Node is opposing the North Node, for you, your heart knows that you have a new place in society. You have a new place to be. You have a new role to play. The role you played before was based on your karma and mistakes you'd made and felt guilty about. And so you're trying to fix things for the first half of this life. Now that you've got things fixed, or at least you feel good about it, hopefully, you've let it go, the South Node crossing Venus crossing the South Node means that there's things that your heart was going for that you now say you no longer want. And first of all, a Taurus gets everything it wants. It's the manifester. So it has to be careful what it puts on the grocery list because it's going to buy it, it's going to afford it, and it's going to have it happen. And so what happens is Tauruses end up using a lot of their credits on things they didn't really want the most. And so in some ways, this will be a shedding, a letting go, mostly because what your heart accepts is now going to go up to a higher level. You're no longer going to accept what you used to. So it's an upgrade in what your heart will accept. And the truth is you've been humble, frankly, and held back up until now. I don't think Tauruses have really gone for what their heart wants. So on Saturday, you realize it's time to go for it and time to be that person I'm supposed to be in society. Then the full moon happens in Aries. And this is for you a huge shift or question of faith because that full moon is going to say you have to get on the side of faith or fate. In other words, your feelings and your thoughts, your subconscious ones, are they assuming success or are they assuming failure? And you have to come to that determination. Which is it, success or failure? I think you're going to choose success for the most part, but I've seen some Tauruses who right now are currently choosing failure. So we'll see. What that does in that full moon is then free you in your daily life, because you've been doing a lot of things in your life that, frankly, were designed to not fail, but they weren't what you really wanted. And so they've been costing money and they've been costing you credits, so to speak. That's the full moon. And it could be a breakdown in faith, by the way, for a moment, or a temper tantrum. Now, with that said, it takes us to the third act. When Venus in Virgo kind of chimes up with Jupiter in Cancer, for you, it's a matter of synchronizing your heart to your mind. What you realize is, A, with Venus in Virgo, what your heart really wants, what you haven't really been talking about, what you've been keeping on the back burner and sort of hoping for, but not really going for. And then Jupiter in Cancer, your mind rallies around it. So I think what happens is, by the end of the week, your mind says, yes, we can do this. And your heart says, thank God, because I really wanted it. Gemini. Gemini, it's an interesting time for you now that we're in Libra, because for Geminis, it's an opportunity to have what your heart really wants. And you may say, oh, I always think about what I want. Yes, you always think about it. You don't always get it. Geminis have lived a lot in their minds, and that has sufficed. And for those who are lazy or afraid or whatever, you haven't gone for your heart wants, because it's almost as satisfying as a Gemini to live in the mind as it is to live in reality. Almost. Reality is just a little bit better right now. But the universe wants to give you more experiential love, more experiential joygasms, as I like to say. And so what this comes down to is you have to open up to loving yourself at a greater level, and then you'll start to attract the world bringing you everything you love. That's kind of how the fifth house works. So for the three acts, the first thing has to do with emotions. When Venus crosses the South Node, it's time to dump emotional baggage. You're holding on to baggage that, frankly, is just going to make you sick and eventually cause disease in your body. This is the baggage where, I don't know why, maybe you don't realize you can just dismiss it upon will, but you have other things to do and you have other callings in life. And we're at a point now where if you don't let go of the baggage, you won't be able to climb high enough in what you're here to do. So you're at an ultimatum. And I know you don't like emotions very much, but because Virgo rules your house of emotion, you make your feelings extremely real when you focus too much on them. So be forgiving and let them go. Then what happens is this frees your heart. The full moon says, hey, it's maybe now time to have a different opinion about your potential in society. You've always thought you were capable of this, but wondered if you were capable of that. And the planets are saying, you are capable of that. It's a matter of saying, my heart belongs with that. So the full moon is that you have the courage to put yourself out there and sort of go for what your heart really wants, which is probably something that a lot of people will be surprised you're going for. What that does is it frees you from the old reputation. You don't have to pretend anymore in society or be somewhere you don't like or talk to people you don't really get along with. And now your heart can now focus on your art, your creativity, the expression of your heart. And that's what the freedom happens in Libra when you take on the side of your heart in public. Then lastly, the third act, when Venus comes together with Jupiter, this actually helps you with money, all right? You have the potential to make a lot more money when you feel better. In fact, the realization that you have is the better you feel, the more you make. And that's true. With Geminis and Gemini risings, you're the only ones wired so much around the water signs. When you're emotionally there, so is the money. Think about that. Cancer. Cancer, a lot of interesting things going on for you this week. First of all, let's talk about our first act and our second. Libra for you is the consciousness of how well you care for your feelings. You have Libra that rules your foundation in your home. That means that you are extremely sensitive, as Libra is the most sensitive sign, extremely sensitive to your own feelings. This is what makes you so good at caring for others, is because you understand or understand what a lot of things already feel like. But ironically, Cancers haven't done much work to feel better. You've been so preoccupied in getting your kudos for doing well, for caring for others, that you've sort of left your own inner chores behind and left it to your last minute or last bit of emotional energy. So this is the time for you to get a new home, for you to get a new way of caring for yourself. And so the week starts actually one sign behind when we have Venus in Virgo. You see, Venus in Virgo is actually calling for you to think differently, that you kind of get swirled up in these repeating thoughts over and over and over and over and over again, going over all the evidence. And the problem is that because you're pure logical in this particular process and you're not bringing feelings into the equation, you're going over the same facts, but you're never educating yourself or getting new facts. So you're spinning around in stuff that doesn't matter. Instead, the universe is saying, go after what you want to learn, not what you have experienced. Go after what you want to expand. And because it's Pisces, go after your spiritual side, period. So that opposition on Saturday says, hey, it's time to go for the spiritual side. It's time to dump a whole bunch of thinking. And once you dump the thinking, you get rid of like half the noise. and the noise was making you emotionally upset. So you calmed down because your mind was actually causing problems. But then now you're free to really go, what do my feelings actually need? And that's the full moon. The full moon says you have an opportunity to be on a different part of the team. The Cancers have always sort of thrown themselves under the bus and taken whatever job they would get. No offense, but that's been a lot of the case. You're naturally wired to be so helpful that you can plug into so many situations. But have you really gone for what your heart wants selfishly? The answer is no. The full moon says, hey, it's time to do that. You should go after it. You can do it. And so you realize that to do that, you're going to have to actually encourage yourself and nurture yourself on a level that's much higher, as if you're an astronaut or an athlete or trying to do something really special with Guinness Book World Records. You're going to have to go above and beyond your self-nurture to get yourself to a new level. Then the final beat has to do with Venus and Jupiter working together. See, Venus and Virgo is trying to get you to adopt a new language and, most importantly, a new attitude. And that's what happens. By the end of the week, you realize that a new attitude will come with a new way of expressing yourself. And so once you understand how to speak differently of yourself, you'll also understand how to present differently of yourself. And I think, folks, we're going to see a Cancer we have never seen before, probably since Atlantis. It'll be interesting. Virgo, you stand to be one of the most transformed from this full moon, and it helps you in such a great way, but it might be a little scary going into it. First of all, Venus on the South Node in Virgo opposing the North Node in Pisces for you means a tug of war between long-term relationships and how you relate altogether and your own behavior and the way you present yourself. And so what Venus crossing the South Node says is it's time to let go of a whole bunch of behavior. Now, this isn't bad behavior, by the way. It's probably coping behavior. You probably have a lot of little things you do based on when you were nervous, trying to fit in, trying to get along, trying to bridge the road to someone you didn't think liked you. You didn't think anyone liked you. So you're always working to make everyone like you. That was the old version of you. And so I think there's a lot of just like programming in your character personality, like the automatic part of us, like stewardesses and stuff like that. We all have those little things we always do. I think it's time to get rid of those. You're going to do a shedding of sort of behaviors, responses, things that you've done all the time, and sort of, in a way, get a bit of a makeover, a beauty makeover, because you're going to let go of all the grimace that you might have in your face or in your expression of yourself because you're doing stuff you don't want to do. So North Node says, hey, just, you know what? Just go after the relationships you like. Don't worry about being everyone to, everything to everyone. Just go after the ones you like. Go after the ones you favor. And just be friends with them. You have to be mean, just go after those. So I think Virgo's finally giving themselves the permission to just hang out with who they like only, kind of thing. Not that some of you aren't already, I'm not saying, but you know what I'm talking about when I say this. So what this does is this creates a new freedom. You see, Libra for you has to do with your self-worth. And so what's really happening is you are taking away the barriers that keep you from really manifesting a lot more. Why? You've always been unfair, Libra, to yourself. And since you've always been unfair to yourself, so is the world. Unfair to you. That's how it works in this materialistic reality that we live in. So the full moon for you is actually a boundary that switches. Something in you snaps where you go, you know what? I always thought I was supposed to lock this door, but I'm going to open it now. You decide probably to reverse policies on some sort of boundary. It could be a boundary with sex with someone. It's a very intimate boundary. It could be not letting yourself be in sex. It could be that you are letting something go from your past. You got something locked up or something chained up, and whatever it is, it's just not making you feel valuable. So the full moon is something snaps, and it could be a person involved, so be careful. In fact, this full moon is in kind of a dangerous place. You don't want to be operating heavy machinery in this one. Just let it go and be smooth. It's because the full moon is in your 8th house of death, and something will die, frankly, over this full moon. Some policy, some way of talking, something to that degree. And this will free you now to live in your heart and start to charge the prices you deserve without any guilt whatsoever. And that was what was causing the hangups. So then we have the Venus and Jupiter alignment on Friday. What this does is it connects for you your personality that you're becoming, like this new character you're becoming, and the role you play in the world. You're going to finally start feeling like who you are in the moment is who you are in the world. No longer having to change, switch things up or dumb it down or try to act like you know more than you do. You've always been very flexible of being service and being anyone you had to be to get the job done. And so that final point is, hey, I deserve this much. I don't have to do this anymore. And I can just be myself in the moment. And that will mean who my personality is in society. So it's a new Virgo on the horizon. Very interesting. Libras, you are going to change profoundly in this 3 zodiac structure this week. Right now, first of all, it's your birthday period. Happy birthday. You know what you're getting for your birthday? A new you. Seriously. We're going to talk about how that is and why that is. But first, let's talk about the opposition starts on Saturday. On Saturday, the Venus will cross the South Node in Virgo and then oppose the North Node in Pisces. And for Libras, it means it's time to let the past go. Literally, whatever that means in your world, past, the word past, that's it. The past. You have to let the past go. You hold on to justice. You don't understand when you do understand. If you don't get justice, you don't let go, right? And that's what makes you a good judge. But the problem is, it's going to keep you from going into the new story. It's going to keep you from doing what your heart really wants. The universe is saying, you've gone over this stuff enough. There's nothing to look at here, you know? So ultimately, this means that you let go and just say you don't care anymore. You just throw it to the universe, give back to the universe. And what happens is you end up having new opportunity in your daily life. Suddenly a door will open finally out of the way, out of the maze you've been living in, or out of the craziness of your office, or whatever the situation may be. You'll see freedom comes from it by giving yourself freedom from karma, basically, and forgiving yourself in essence. So that puts us into the full moon. The full moon, of course, is the house of relationships. And so as a result of your spiritual epiphany, that could happen a few days up to that moment, you realize that your response or the way you think about marriage or the way you think about relationships, there's something about relationships that you just flip. You just flip your opinion on. And you go either the other way or the opposite way or a whole new way, maybe another dimension. But you just simply leave that whole way of thinking about relationships. So this is Libra's an exciting moment. They're giving birth to the new human relationships. I mean, that's what's really happening. The age of Aquarius relationships. So they have different rules about marriage and all sorts of stuff. Technically, they're being born this weekend with you. And it's because you've had enough of something you have been no longer wanting to relate to. What that does is the sun on Libra's side allows you to be authentic. And I'm not saying you're not authentic. I'm just saying it's not often, and so because you're trying to win the room, you're trying to diplomacy that thing, you're starting to be the diplomat, you're trying to make the peace. And so you've always sacrificed your uniqueness and your individuality. So this allows you to be who you are because you're not worried about some relationship you think is tied to who you are. Now, this brings us to the connection of Venus and Jupiter at the end of the week. Venus in Virgo says, you know what? Your connection to spirit can be so much greater. And you can actually go so much farther in society if you pay more attention to what you have faith in and not attention to what you are afraid of. So Libras are realizing that, oh my gosh, I know I'm cerebral. I know I'm analyzing the earth, but if I actually work with spirit, I can be anywhere and do anything I want for my career legacy. In fact, it's the age of Aquarius. So of course your career is going to be spiritual. Scorpio, this is a fun one. I know my Scorpios are going to be so happy when they hear this. And it really starts with the fact that Libra for you is faith. And faith is a big deal for Scorpios. They put it all on the line according to that very subtle little connection they have to God, known as Libra in the 12th house. You have a very sensitive scale. You can feel when God's mad at everyone, or there's a disturbance in the force, put it that way. So this whole thing really begins when it comes to your place in the world. You see, you have been always very useful in the world. And so when Venus crosses the South Node, it's telling Scorpios, walk away from where you've been useful. Not that you're not a useful person, but you have developed a social life and everything based on the things you're good at, the things you can fix, the things you can make work. But that's not the things that make you go, Those are the things that make you excited, make your inner child fire off. So this is an exciting one. The Scorpios are being invited to go ahead and just let go of all the promises to the world that they don't want to keep. You don't have to. You can file bankruptcy and no longer do it. Not literal bankruptcy, but just that relationship, that connection. Yes, it's all going away to the wind. This allows you now to go straight for what your heart actually wants, what your heart truly wants. And don't even get worried about how it's going to happen. It's going to, if you know what it is. Now, that brings us now to Libra energy. The Libra energy says to us, hey, you're going to now have to have faith. And that means you're going to have a change of opinion about something that happens in daily life. The full moon for Scorpios is in your house of home, is in your house of daily lifestyle. 14 degrees means that you're going to have a switch in your realization of how you live day to day, how you work day to day. There's going to be a pole shift. Something's going to just suddenly change. If you've been tolerating an environment that's really bad, you suddenly will not have the strength to tolerate it anymore. You'll just flip out. As they say in the 90s, go postal. But things got changed actually to other things. It's weird how we are. So you have had that tendency, and you've always said that you're unhappy with being taken advantage of at work, to be the one who does most of the work. They're not doing like nice fairness when it comes to who gets what assignments. Scorpios have always got the shifty end of the stick when it comes to work. And the universe says it's because your faith, your connection to spirit has been one where you put yourself as the prisoner. You put yourself as the punished one. You interpret hard things that happen to you by God not liking you, or you not really working with God because you're pissed. And that happens. Scorpios get pissed at God, not talk to God for a whole couple of years. Couple lifetimes rather. So what this says is this flipping the switch where you go, I don't have to be this in daily life anymore, then lets you feel free. And that point you go, oh, I think God likes me. And then the final thing we want to talk about, the Venus-Jupiter conjunction or connection, what this says is that ultimately now you realize that you can be absolutely anything you want to be in the world. And if you follow your beliefs. And so I think Scorpio's in the week with this epiphany that says, now that I'm going to let myself do anything I want and I'm going to let myself have what my heart wants, it's not that I don't believe it can happen. It's that I've never really emotionally put myself there to try. So you could say that at the end of the week, Scorpios come to this realization that it's time to try, that you can actually both have what you believe and you can also be only who you want to be in society. You can basically have it all. So we'll see how long that lasts, and we'll see if you come back next week still believing it. Sagittarius. Sagittarius are going to make a heck of a leap this week with all that's going on. Ultimately, Libra for you is your relationship to the world. So you may not know this, but Sagittariuses are the most Libran out in the world as far as the fair ones, the ones that will talk to anybody, the ones that treat people equally. Sagittariuses are always cool to people all across the globe. They see the whole globe as their friend, and they're nice to all the same people everywhere. Like they treat everyone the same almost everywhere. If you look at a Sag, it's really impressive. They really are, in some ways, the new world citizen already. But the thing about that is that you're not where you want to be, are you? And you're not necessarily getting what your heart really wants, are you? And you're not really falling in love on the level you wanted to, are you? And the answer is no. That's because you're really caught up in, being so fair to the world that you're unfair to yourself. And you haven't really understood how to have your cake and eat it too. Is that possible even? Well, the universe says, yes, it's possible. We got to go one sign back, which is to Virgo. And this means that you have realized also that when it comes to your career and your legacy, you're holding on to a lot of things in your company or in your career or in your goals that you don't really want to do. You just feel like you'd be an idiot if you didn't do it. It's like you're capable. They pay you for it. You should. You get along. There's nothing wrong, you're saying to yourself, but why should I risk what I have? And the answer is because it doesn't feel good. Ultimately, you have to realize the North Node is, hey, it's time for Sagittarius to feel good all the time. All the time, all the time. You need to feel good all the time. We're talking like feel good all the time, really. Otherwise, you can't be your fun self. And so to feel good all the time means you've got to cut out of your career and your promises the stuff that's not fun. And you have a full right to do that. So the first thing on Saturday is the realization, hey, I can actually cut out what I don't like. Then we have the full moon that happens. Full moon in Aries, and that full moon in Aries hits you right in the heart. It's a step 14 full moon right in the second decan of the fifth house, which means the universe is going to basically say to you, are you going to let your heart have what it wants or not? It's an ultimatum with your inner child. And this is a point where your whole self is looking. If you cheat on yourself now, God has helped you, right? Because you're aware. So the full moon says, I have to have what my heart wants. That means that I am not going to be the same diplomat that I have been in the world per se. I'm going to let me being happy and be fair to me first. And that's going to flip the poles like crazy. We're going to see Sagittariuses not be friendly to everybody and just be friendly to the ones that their heart wants to be friendly to, right? Sounds small, but it's a huge deal. Now, that said, the end of the week is when Venus in Virgo now connects with Jupiter in Cancer. And what this does is something really remarkable because the end of Venus in Virgo is saying to yourself, all right, well, if I'm going to let myself just do what I want, well, then I know precisely what I want, okay? Because Virgo is that precision. And Venus is saying, yes, I can have every detail I want. I can have every data point that I want to get in my career, in my legacy, basically have it all. And the thing is for the first time in your whole life, because of Jupiter in Cancer, you actually will feel inside that you can do it. And that's what's totally different. You will feel that you can do it. You will not have any doubts inside of yourself. You'll feel confident. And overall, that was always what held you back. Something kind of felt off. And so I think Sagittarius are about to get a lot more courage and be a lot more interesting to watch. Not that you were before, but now. Capricorns. Capricorns, you are in a fascinating moment, especially to watch. Now, the Sun in Libra means that you're actually in a career transit, which I know makes you happy. You like your career, and it's really where you are the most fair in life, be honest. Your Libra energy, your fairness is in your career. So you will be fair, you'll be diplomatic, you'll be this hero at work, but then as soon as you punch out, who knows? That's true, because it is true. That's the way you work. You put your best diplomacy into your goals and what you're doing. But the problem is actually one sign before. You see, this 3-act week starts with you with the Venus crossing the South Node in Virgo, which for you means that you're going to let go of a whole bunch of horse shit. I mean, false beliefs. You have accumulated, according to astrology, just all sorts of stories and anecdotes and all this data that was all kind of based, I think, on proving that you knew what you're talking about. And that proving that you knew what you're talking about was really because your mind wasn't compassionate to yourself and your mind wouldn't let anything go. So your karma was that your mind was beating yourself up all the time. and you just kept filling your warehouse with books to prove you were right. And so the universe is saying is like, it's time not to like bring all that extra baggage. It's time for you to realize to get rid of what's not you as far as beliefs and just pick your favorite ones based on your own experiences and your own knowledge. What happens is when you dump all that data, then now you can go for what your mind wants to think about. You don't have to worry about proving it with the facts all the time and showing when you're right. You just go with that inspiration. You just follow that intuitive move. Okay, that is actually what brings us to this month. Because what's happening is the sun in Libra says, hey, it's time to make new choices in my career. Well, if you now feel like you can just believe in what you like to believe in, that means you can pursue in your career what you just want to pursue in your career. The problem is the full moon is going to show where you have an emotional issue in your home and family or from your home and family situation. And this emotional situation is actually so toxifying that you are afraid to jump and take the risk. So you have emotions holding you back. And I can say with all my Capricorn friends, I verify this. I've been talking to you. I'm seeing it building up. It's been interesting to see because prior I haven't seen Capricorn suffering so much emotionally. Well, you've just been a rock. You've been Aries, but now I'm really seeing in this situation how emotional you are, and you've been a lot more free in sharing it. So it's been interesting to see. So the full moon is that something emotional blows up. If you're in denial, it could be explosive. If you know what it is, it could just kind of take over and become a 36-hour drama or something. It could be also a blow up in the house. It could be a blow up with your family or any family member. But what it represents is you're no longer going to tolerate those feelings anymore. You don't want to feel that way anymore. And so it comes out, hopefully in a diplomatic way. And that gives you new freedom. You're going to find that you've been making choices in your career to keep yourself from feeling bad. And you thought it was feeling bad from failure. It was that when you feel anything, you feel that deep, deep bad. And so you've been trying not to make choices that will disrupt your feelings. And so you're making weak and uninteresting choices. And so careers have been a little dim. Okay. So this is going to really blow the hole out of, literally your emotional foundation that's keeping you from manifesting the success that you want. Now that goes to the end of the week. When you connect to Venus in Virgo and Jupiter in Cancer, this means that your beliefs in what your purpose is now going to be working alongside your relationships. Have you ever noticed that a lot of people that are in relationships with you are reluctant to follow you on your purpose? It's true, though. It's funny because Capricorn's like, they've got this vision, but whenever we hear it from a Capricorn, we're just a little nervous about it. And that's because your own feelings about relationships have been so cluttered with doesn't work. You've actually only tried to people who were skeptical of you because you were skeptical of you. So what happens is when you lose your self-skepticism, you lose the relationships that doubt you also. So a triumphant moment, I think, for Capricorns. Aquarius. Aquarius, it's going to be an interesting time. First of all, congratulations on your transformation. You're in year 2 of probably 15, but it's going to be neat to see you every week. Now, that said, this whole transition we should talk about with the sun in Libra and the full moon in Aries. Aries is your mind. So Aquariuses have been and become much more arrogant over the centuries since Atlantis. They became very arrogant with the Aries energy. Everyone's arrogant somewhere in their life with Aries and the age of Aries and the age of Pisces. And with Aquarius, the arrogance was with the mind. I think you knew you were smarter and thought multidimensionally, and I think the Earth did not think multidimensionally, and so I think your arrogance was warranted. It's not the way I would have gone, but certainly your confidence was warranted. You probably were light years above or ahead of the way people think. That's it. But you still took advantage of your power like a Neanderthal and did the same things we all do, like alcohol and other things. And so as a result, a lot of your karma is not about how you think, but rather your beliefs. You see, you have been sort of energetically not necessarily trusted with your beliefs one way or another. People pick one side or the other. And you've been very back and forth with your beliefs too. But your beliefs are back and forth, not because that you don't have the right beliefs, but because your mind can be an a-hole and argue with yourself or others. So this brings us one sign behind. The first setup, which happens on Saturday, is when Venus crosses the South Node in Virgo. It gives you actually a new opinion on where to draw the line. Where you'd always draw the line as half empty, you might go, you know what? It's half full. It's one type of thing like that where the line's like, oh, I had it backwards. One line somewhere. This is the line of a mental line, the way you think about where the line should be. So it's a mental comprehension of the line that you're actually going to realize. But as soon as you change your mind there, you actually change the line. And what that does is free you to make money. Because apparently the astrology says you haven't been making the money you deserve because of your own boundaries, your own complications, your own policies. If you have all these policies of when you draw the line, when this should happen, the complications you put in the 8th house, that means that that's that complicated to do business with you. Like you have so many laws that people have to face and things like that. So you have kept the money small because you've kept the demands and the regulation high. So what that does is bring us down to the sun in Libra. Once you reduce all that red tape and regulation, well, now you're very clear to just be who you are and believe in what you want to believe in, which means the full moon says you're going to have some sort of a mental trap moment. Okay, mental trap moment is the full moon will be probably you saying the worst thing at the worst time. It's usually like it's just such a stupid thing to say. Like something just comes out that just reveals to you this gigantic machine of propaganda you've created in your mind over the centuries to stay safe. And so you realize it's this mind that really keeps me from having full faith in my beliefs, because somewhere in myself, I think my mind's going to screw it up. And that's true. Your mind is going to screw up, which has to do nothing with your beliefs. So the cool thing is then you are freed, I believe. And what you realize is with Venus in the end of Virgo and Jupiter in Cancer, I think you come to realize that you can actually change even more of your boundaries and transform your life and realize that you will end up with a life that feels so good. It's like living in the tropical paradise of your dreams, that literally your lifestyle, everything can flow beautifully in life. And I think what you realize is like, it wasn't that it wasn't flowing. It's that you had so much bureaucracy and red tape inside of your belief structure that was keeping you all wound up, and all kept from really doing your spiritual purpose. You were literally auditing yourself into oblivion and therefore dimming your light. So we'll see. We'll see if the Aquarius is lighting up. I co-host with one next Wednesday. We'll see how they feel. And the Pisces. Pisces are the sign that I'm almost most excited about in some ways because you're wrapping up the age of Pisces. People don't realize you're getting all this Aquarius stuff, but the truth is you're graduating Pisces. That's a huge thing. You're kind of like high schoolers, frankly. That's true. It's a good movie for you, like a high school movie. Well, the way it all starts, of course, is actually in your sign. Yes, we're in the sun in Libra right now. And yes, that means we have the earth in Aries, but it starts with the Virgo consciousness of the South Node. You see, Pisces are being called to, on Saturday in particular, to call a spade when it comes to relationships. That's right. It's time to make some cuts. I think Pisces have been reluctant to cut away from things that aren't healthy for them or things that they just don't like, but they feel karmically guilty about. And so you stay in relationships that you feel guilty over. And that's the thing. You're just holding on to too many things in your evidence. And I think at the big picture of it, you have to be the judge in this huge courtroom you keep putting yourself in your mind and just pardon pardon everything and dismiss all the evidence. Just get rid of it. Burn the evidence. What happens is once that's gone, it's not that you're cheating. It's that you're the one that keeps prosecuting. You're fine. The universe is fine. God's fine. Neptune just went through your sign. You're purified again. You've basically been baptized by the spiritual universe. Why is there even a trial? Why is there even an appeal? And this is all going on in your head, of course, with your relationships. So once you get rid of that relationship baggage, what happens is now when we go into Libra, you can actually draw lines the way you want to draw them. And that's what Libra is for you. Pisces are kind of funny. The joke is that, a fish will, swim with any fish. And that's because you have been very Libra-like where you draw the boundary. Sometimes the boundary's here, sometimes the boundary's here, sometimes there, sometimes it's there. Back and forth, becoming unreliable. People wondering if you have any ethics at all when it comes to your boundaries. Seems like you let anybody in and you keep the right people out. So you've been not looking very well that way. But that's because of the Aries energy. Aries for you, which is what this full moon is about, is the fact that you have basically oversold yourself and then underdelivered, or undersold yourself and then overdelivered but didn't get paid. Like you've had a lot of Aries arrogance when it comes to making money. In some cases, you've been sort of hubris that you're so, go through a bankruptcy if you're actually dealing with money issues. And what this does is then free you to make the choices you want to make. And that's the thing. Although you've been sort of slippery and sloppery with choices, you haven't really been choosing the ones you want. And that brings us to the end of the transit. Because at the end of the transit, you're going to realize that you can actually have the kind of relationship you totally want, with all the things that you want in that relationship, with all the rules that you want, and your heart can get everything it wants too. You're going to realize, frankly, that you can have everything your heart wants. And that might be why the age of Pisces will end. It's because Pisces will have found their joy.
Coming up next week on Sirius Joy TV. Catch Leading Out Loud on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join the motley crew of Sensei Christopher and psychic medium Scott Cruz for a convo about conflict without the casualties. Then join us for Astro Mingle on Friday night for another illuminating conversation. Who will be sitting on the spiritual couch with Sensei? We're going to let this one be a surprise. The best in enlightened entertainment, only on Sirius Joy TV.